I found the journal in Emma's room 3 days after the funeral. It was tucked beneath her mattress, a simple spiral-bound notebook with a purple cover, the kind you'd buy at any drugstore. My hands were shaking as I pulled it out, dust motes dancing in the afternoon light streaming through her window. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that now. A mother should respect her daughter's privacy, even in death. But Emma had been gone for 2 weeks, and I was desperate for any piece of her I could still hold, any words she'd written, any thoughts she'd had, anything to make her feel less vanished. The first page was dated 6 months before she died, before the accident that took her from me, before my world shattered into pieces I'm still trying to put back together. "Mom will never believe me," the first line read. So I'm writing this down. Everything that happened, everything Aunt Rachel did. Someone needs to know the truth, even if I'm the only one who ever reads it. My breath caught in my throat. Rachel, my sister, my best friend since childhood, the woman who'd held my hand through my divorce, who'd been there when Emma was born, who'd helped me raise my daughter when her father walked away. What could Rachel have possibly done that Emma thought I wouldn't believe? I turned the page, and my daughter's handwriting, that familiar looping script I'd seen on homework and birthday cards and sticky notes left on the refrigerator, began to tell me a story I never knew existed. A story that made my stomach turn. A story that changed everything I thought I understood about my life, my sister, and the daughter I'd lost. It started last summer, Emma had written, the day Aunt Rachel asked me to keep a secret. I read that journal from cover to cover, sitting on Emma's bed as the sun moved across the sky and shadows filled her room. I read about manipulation and lies. I read about betrayal so deep it made my bones ache. I read about my 16-year-old daughter trying desperately to protect me from a truth she knew would destroy me. And by the time I reached the last page, the last entry written just 3 days before Emma died, I understood something terrible. My sister hadn't just betrayed me. She'd stolen my daughter from me long before the accident took Emma's life. She'd poisoned our relationship, twisted Emma's trust, and used my own child against me in ways I'm still struggling to comprehend. The last line of the journal said simply, "I can't do this anymore. I can't keep lying for her. Tomorrow, I'm telling Mom everything, no matter what Aunt Rachel threatens. Mom deserves to know." Tomorrow never came for Emma. The accident happened that night. The car crash that the police said was straightforward, tragic, unavoidable. Just a girl driving too fast on a rut road, losing control, hitting a tree. But now, sitting in her room with her journal in my hands, I couldn't help but wonder, was it really an accident? And even if it was, my sister's betrayal had stolen something precious from me long before Emma died. It had stolen the last year of my daughter's life, the closeness we should have had, the conversations we should have shared, the trust that should have existed between mother and daughter. Rachel took that from me, from us. And now I needed to understand why. I needed to know what my sister had done, what secrets she'd made my daughter keep, what poison she'd poured into the relationship that mattered most to me in this world. I stood up from Emma's bed, the journal clutched against my chest like a lifeline. Outside, the spring evening was turning to dusk. Somewhere across town, Rachel was probably making dinner, living her life completely unaware that her secrets had just been uncovered. I picked up my phone. My finger hovered over her name in my contacts. The sister I'd trusted with everything. The aunt Emma had adored since childhood. But I didn't call.
Not yet. First, I needed to read the journal again, slowly, carefully. I needed to understand every detail of what had happened, every manipulation, every lie, every moment my sister had stolen from me. And then I would confront her. Then I would demand answers. Then I would make her face what she'd done.
This is the story of how I lost my daughter, twice. Once to an accident that took her life, and once to a sister's betrayal that I never saw coming. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I understood my life. I thought I knew the people I loved. I thought the story I'd been living was the true one. I was wrong about all of it. I'm 41 years old, a high school English teacher in a small town in Oregon called Riverside. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where you can't go to the grocery store without running into at least 3 people you know, where your business is everyone's business whether you like it or not. I've lived here my whole life. So has Rachel. We grew up in a yellow house 2 blocks from the river, daughters of parents who loved us but worked constantly. Dad at the lumber mill, mom as a nurse at the county hospital. Rachel is 3 years older than me, and growing up, she was everything I wanted to be. Confident, beautiful, popular, smart. She protected me from bullies in middle school. She taught me how to do my makeup. She let me borrow her clothes, even though I usually stained or tore them. We were close. Best friends, really, in the way sisters can be when they genuinely like each other. When I got married at 23 to David Mitchell, Rachel was my maiden of honor. When David and I had Emma 2 years later, Rachel was in the delivery room, holding my hand and crying happy tears when my daughter was born. Emma Rose Mitchell came into this world on a Tuesday morning in April, weighing 7 pounds and 3 ounces, with a shock of dark hair and lungs that could wake the dead. She was perfect, absolutely perfect. And from the moment I held her, I knew that being her mother was the purpose my life had been building toward. David was a good father at first, attentive, loving, proud. He'd walk around town pushing Emma's stroller like he'd won the lottery. But by the time Emma turned 4, the cracks in our marriage had become canyons. David had always been restless, always looking for the next thing. And apparently the next thing wasn't his family. He left when Emma was 5, said he needed to find himself, needed to explore life beyond our small town, needed to be free. He moved to Seattle, started a new life, and gradually faded from Emma's world. Phone calls became less frequent. Visits became sporadic. Child support checks came irregularly, then not at all. I was devastated. Not because I still loved David. I'm not sure I ever really did, not in the deep, lasting way love should be, but because Emma deserved better. She deserved a father who showed up. And watching her wait by the window for visits that never happened, watching her face fall when he forgot her birthday again, watching her pretend she didn't care, that broke my heart in ways I couldn't fix. Rachel was there through all of it. She helped me file for divorce. She babysat Emma while I worked extra hours to make ends meet. She showed up at Emma's school plays and soccer games when David didn't. She became the stable, reliable presence in Emma's life that her father should have been. "You're not alone," Rachel would tell me during those hard years. "Emma has me. She has you. She has everything she needs." And I believed her. I was grateful for her. Rachel had never married. She'd had relationships over the years, a boyfriend here, a brief engagement there, but nothing ever stuck. She always said she was too independent for marriage, too focused on her career. She worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep, traveling around the region, making good money, living in a beautiful condo on the nice side of town. She seemed happy, complete, fulfilled. I never questioned it, never wondered if maybe she envied what I had, even as messy and difficult as single motherhood could be. Never considered that her helpfulness might be anything other than sisterly love. Emma and Rachel were close from the beginning. Rachel was the cool aunt, the one who took Emma shopping and bought her things I couldn't afford, The one who let Emma stay up late watching movies when she babysat. The one who didn't lecture or discipline, just listened and laughed and made everything seem easier. As Emma got older, their relationship deepened. By the time she was a teenager, she and Rachel talked almost daily. They texted constantly. Rachel knew about Emma's crushes, her friend drama, her hopes and fears. Sometimes I felt a small pang of jealousy. Shouldn't Emma be telling me these things? But mostly I was grateful. Grateful that Emma had another woman she trusted, another voice of wisdom in her life. Rachel gets it, Emma would say when I tried to give advice she didn't want to hear. She understands what it's like to be young. I'd laugh and let it go. After all, wasn't it good that Emma had someone she could talk to? Wasn't it healthy that she had outlets beyond her mother? The teenage years had been challenging, as they are for every parent. Emma was strong-willed, independent, testing boundaries. She wanted more freedom than I was comfortable giving. She pushed back against rules. She rolled her eyes at my concerns.
We fought sometimes. Normal mother-daughter conflicts about curfews and grades and responsibilities. Nothing terrible, nothing that worried me too much. Just the usual turbulence of raising a teenager who was becoming her own person. But looking back now, I can see the shift that happened about a year ago. Emma became more distant, more secretive. She spent less time at home, more time out with friends, or supposedly at Rachel's place. When I asked about her day, she'd give one-word answers. When I tried to dig deeper, she'd shut down. "You wouldn't understand," she'd say, or "It's not a big deal, Mom, stop worrying." I attributed it to normal teenage behavior. Emma was 16, asserting her independence, pulling away from me the way adolescents do. Every parenting book said this was normal, expected, even healthy. And whenever I worried too much, Rachel would reassure me. "She's fine, Sarah. She's just being a teenager. Give her space. She still loves you." I trusted Rachel. Why wouldn't I? She was my sister. She'd been supporting me and Emma for years. She had no reason to lie to me. But she was lying about everything. The accident happened on a Wednesday night in March. Emma had told me she was going to a friend's house to study. She'd seemed quiet that evening, distracted, like something was weighing on her mind. I'd asked if she was okay, and she'd given me a tight smile. "I'm fine, Mom, just tired." "Drive carefully," I'd said as she grabbed her keys. "Text me when you get there." "I will." Those were the last words my daughter ever said to me. "I will." But she didn't text. And an hour later, I got the call every parent dreads. The police telling me there'd been an accident. Emma had lost control of her car on Old Mill Road, hit a tree. They were taking her to the hospital, but I should come quickly. I drove there doing 90, my hands shaking on the wheel, my heart in my throat. Rachel met me in the emergency room. Someone from the hospital had called her too, knowing she was Emma's aunt, knowing she'd been listed as an emergency contact. "She's gonna be okay," Rachel kept saying as we waited. "She has to be okay." But Emma wasn't okay. She died on impact, the doctor told us. She hadn't suffered. It was instantaneous. I remember screaming. I remember Rachel holding me while I collapsed. I remember the world ending right there in that sterile hospital corridor. The funeral was a blur. The whole town came. My students, Emma's classmates, our neighbors, our family. Everyone said the same things. She was so young, so vibrant, so full of life. Such a tragedy, such a loss. Rachel spoke at the service. She talked about what a special girl Emma was, how much she'd loved her, how she'd been honored to be her aunt. She cried real tears. She seemed genuinely shattered, and I held her hand, grateful to have my sister beside me in the worst moment of my life. The first 2 weeks after the funeral, Rachel was at my house constantly, bringing food, cleaning, answering phone calls and door knocks from well-meaning people I couldn't face. She helped me sort through sympathy cards. She fielded questions from the school about Emma's belongings and her locker. She was the strong one, while I fell apart. "I'm here," she kept saying. "Whatever you need, we'll get through this together." I believed her. I needed her. But on the third week, Rachel had to travel for work, a conference in Portland she couldn't miss. She apologized profusely, made me promise to call if I needed anything, and left on a Monday morning. That afternoon, I went into Emma's room for the first time since she died. I had been avoiding it, unable to face the space that still smelled like her perfume, still held her clothes and books and all the physical evidence of a life cut short. I'd gone in because I needed to feel close to her. I sat on her bed. I picked up the stuffed rabbit she'd had since childhood. I opened her closet and touched the dresses hanging there. And that's when I noticed the corner of the notebook sticking out from under the mattress. That's when everything changed. Emma's journal told a story I never knew, a story that had been unfolding right in front of me while I remained completely blind to it. It started simply enough. Last summer, Emma had confided in Rachel about a boy she liked, a senior named Jake who worked at the coffee shop downtown. Rachel had encouraged the crush, helped Emma figure out what to wear when she went to see him, coached her on what to say.
But then Rachel had started asking Emma to do things, small things at first. "Don't mention to your mom that I drove up to Portland last weekend. If your mom asks where I was Thursday night, tell her I was with you. Keep this between us, okay? Your mom worries too much." Emma had thought it was harmless. Aunt Rachel had a private life. It was reasonable for her to want some things kept separate from her sister. And Emma, 16 and flattered to be trusted with adult secrets, had agreed. But the requests had escalated. Rachel had started using Emma as an alibi regularly. She'd tell me she was with Emma when she wasn't. She'd have Emma cover for her whereabouts. And when Emma had started to question why Aunt Rachel needed so much secrecy, Rachel had turned it around. "Your mom doesn't understand me," she told Emma. "She judges my choices. She thinks I should live like her, settled, boring, stuck in this town. I need you to protect my privacy. Can you do that? Can I trust you?" Emma, who loved her aunt and who'd started to see me as the boring, overprotective parent who didn't understand real life, had continued covering for Rachel. Then Emma had discovered why Rachel needed so many secrets. It was in the journal entry dated September 15th, 5 months before Emma died. Emma had gone to Rachel's condo unexpectedly. Rachel had borrowed one of Emma's textbooks, and Emma needed it back for homework. She'd used the spare key Rachel had given her and let herself in. Rachel hadn't been alone. She'd been with a man. A married man. Emma had recognized him immediately. Tom Harrison, the father of one of Emma's classmates, a man whose wife Jennifer was friends with me. A man who was well known in our small town, who went to our church, who taught Sunday school. Emma had been shocked, horrified. She'd left without being seen, but she couldn't unsee what she'd witnessed. When she'd confronted Rachel the next day, Rachel had begged her not to tell me. "Please, Emma, your mom wouldn't understand. She'd judge me. She'd tell Jennifer and it would destroy Tom's family. You don't want to be responsible for that, do you? For breaking up a marriage? For hurting people?" Emma was 16. She hadn't known what to do. Rachel had painted me as judgmental, narrow-minded, incapable of understanding complexity, and Emma, already at that age where teenagers naturally question their parents' worldview, had believed her. She'd kept the secret. But that hadn't been the end of it. That had just been the beginning. Over the following months, according to the journal, Rachel had pulled Emma deeper into her web of lies. She'd met with Tom regularly, sometimes using Emma as a cover story. She'd ask Emma to lie to me repeatedly about where Rachel was, what she was doing, who she was with.
Emma had started to feel uncomfortable, used. She'd written in her journal about feeling sick to her stomach every time she lied to me, about wanting to tell me but being afraid of what would happen, afraid I'd hate Rachel, afraid I'd be disappointed in Emma for keeping secrets, afraid of destroying our family. Aunt Rachel keeps saying I'm the only one she can trust, but I don't feel trusted. I feel trapped. Every time I lie to Mom, I feel like I'm losing her, like there's this wall growing between us made of all these secrets. Another entry from December. I tried to tell Aunt Rachel I couldn't do this anymore, that I needed to tell Mom. She cried and said I'd be ruining her life. She said Mom would never forgive me, that our family would be destroyed, that it would be all my fault. Then she said she'd help me raise me, that she'd been there when Dad left, that she deserved my loyalty. How do I say no to that? The manipulation was so clear on the page, so obvious now. But Emma, at 16, hadn't had the tools to recognize it. She'd just known she felt terrible, conflicted, caught between the two most important women in her life. The affair with Tom had ended apparently in January, but by then Rachel had been seeing someone else, another man whose name Emma didn't write down, someone Rachel referred to only as Jay, someone who was also unavailable, also requiring secrecy, also necessitating Emma's complicity. The final entries in the journal, written in the last week of Emma's life, showed a girl who'd reached her breaking point. I can't do this anymore. I've been lying to Mom for almost a year. Every time she tries to talk to me, really talk to me, I have to shut down because I'm scared I'll slip up and tell her everything. We used to be close. Now we barely talk, and it's because of Aunt Rachel's secrets. I miss my mom. I miss telling her things. I miss trusting her. I miss feeling like we're on the same team. Aunt Rachel did this. She made me choose between them, and I chose wrong. I chose secrets over my own mother. The last entry was dated the day Emma died, the day she told me she was going to a friend's house to study.
Tonight, I'm telling Mom everything. I'm done protecting Aunt Rachel. I'm done lying. I'm done feeling like I'm betraying the person who's loved me most in this world. And Rachel will be angry. She might never forgive me, but I need my mom back. I need to be able to look her in the eye without feeling like a liar. Tomorrow, after I talk to Mom, maybe I can finally breathe again. But there hadn't been a tomorrow. Emma had died that night. And reading those words, sitting in her room with the journal in my hands, I wondered something terrible. Had Emma been going to Rachel's that night? Had she been planning to confront her before telling me? Had the friend's house been a lie to cover one final meeting with her aunt? And if so, what had happened during that meeting? The police had said it was an accident, just a wet road and a teenage driver going too fast. But Old Mill Road wasn't on the way to any of Emma's friends' houses. It wasn't on the way to anywhere, really. It was a winding, isolated road that went past the old mill and then out toward the forest. It was, however, on the way to Rachel's condo. I sat in Emma's room as these thoughts crystallized into a terrible possibility. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think my sister was capable of what? What exactly was I accusing her of? But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Rachel had stolen a year of my daughter's life from me. A year when Emma and I could have been close but weren't, because Emma was carrying secrets that weren't hers to carry. A year when my daughter had suffered and struggled and pulled away from me, all because my sister had used her as a shield for her own selfish behavior. Rachel had betrayed us both. She'd manipulated a 16-year-old girl into lying to her mother. She'd poisoned the most important relationship in my life for her own convenience.
And whether or not Rachel had anything to do with Emma's death, she was responsible for stealing those final months from us. Those months when Emma and I could have talked, could have been honest with each other, could have been close. I could never get those months back. That time was gone forever. My sister had taken it from me. And now, I needed to know why. I needed to understand how she could do this. I needed her to explain how she justified using my daughter, manipulating my child, driving a wedge between mother and daughter. I needed Rachel to face what she'd done. I picked up my phone. This time, I didn't hesitate. I called my sister. Rachel answered on the third ring, her voice bright and concerned. "Sarah, how are you doing today? I've been thinking about you all day. I'm so sorry I had to leave for this conference. I feel terrible that you're alone right now." I stood in Emma's room, surrounded by my daughter's things, holding the journal that exposed every lie. My hand was shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. "I need to see you," I said. My voice sounded strange, flat. "When do you get back?" "Not until Friday, but Sarah, if you need me, I can come home early. I can get on a plane tonight." "Friday is fine." I wanted time to think, time to plan what I was going to say. "Can you come to my house? There's something we need to talk about." There was a pause. "Of course. Is everything okay? You sound different." "Everything's not okay. My daughter is dead." "I know, sweetie, I know. I just meant, are you okay? Do you need me to come home sooner?" The concern in her voice sounded so genuine, so real. Had she always been this good at lying, or had I just been too trusting to notice? "Friday is fine. Come over around 7. After we hung up, I sat down at Emma's desk and did what I should have done immediately. I started looking for evidence. If Emma's journal was true, there would be traces, text messages maybe, phone records, something to corroborate what my daughter had written. Emma's phone had been destroyed in the accident, but her laptop was still here, sitting on her desk where she'd left it the day she died. I opened it, feeling like I was violating her privacy, even though she was gone, even though she'd wanted me to know the truth. Her messages with Rachel went back months, hundreds of texts. I started reading, my heart sinking with every exchange. "Rachel, thanks for covering for me last night. You're the best niece ever." "Emma, Mom asked where you were. I said you were with me. She believed it."
Perfect. Our little secret, right? Right. That was from August. September brought more of the same. Rachel asking Emma to lie, Emma complying, sometimes reluctantly, sometimes without question. Then in October, the tone shifted. "Aunt Rachel, I don't feel good about this anymore. All the lying. I know it's hard, sweetie, but you're protecting me. You're being mature and understanding. Your mom wouldn't get it. She's too rigid, too judgmental. You and we understand that life is complicated. I guess. I love you so much, Em. You're more like a daughter to me than a niece. I can talk to you about things I could never discuss with your mom. That's special. You know that, right? I love you too." I felt sick reading it. The manipulation was so clear. Rachel had positioned herself as Emma's ally against me, the rigid, judgmental mother. She'd made Emma feel special, trusted, mature, all while asking her to do something deeply inappropriate. The messages continued through the fall and winter. Emma's discomfort grew more obvious. Her responses got shorter, less enthusiastic, but Rachel kept pushing, kept manipulating, kept using her. In January, there was a concerning exchange. "Emma, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, I need to tell Mom." Rachel, "Emma, please, if you tell her, she'll never forgive me. Our whole family will fall apart. Is that what you want, to destroy everything?" "No, but I can't keep lying to her."
Rachel, think about what this will do to her. She's already been through so much. Your dad leaving, raising you alone, all the struggles. If she finds out about this, it'll break her. Do you want to break your mother's heart? That's not fair. Rachel, I'm not trying to be fair. I'm trying to be honest. Your mom is fragile, Em. More fragile than you realize. This information could really hurt her. You'd be protecting her by keeping quiet. That's what good daughters do. They protect their mothers. The psychological manipulation was breathtaking. Rachel had turned the situation completely around. Now Emma would be the one hurting me by telling the truth, not Rachel by lying. It was twisted, cruel, and devastatingly effective. Emma had backed down. The messages stopped mentioning telling me. Until March, the last week of Emma's life. I'm done, Aunt Rachel. I'm telling Mom everything this week. I can't live like this anymore. Emma, please, let's talk about this in person. Don't do anything rash. There's nothing to talk about. I should have told her months ago. You're making a huge mistake. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly. I'm choosing my mom. I should have chosen her from the beginning. The last message from Rachel came the day Emma died. We need to talk. Tonight. Please, come to my place after school. Don't tell Mom. Just come. Give me one chance to explain. Emma hadn't responded to that message, but she died that night on Old Mill Road, the road that led to Rachel's condo. My hands were trembling as I took screenshots of every message. I sent them to myself, to my email, backed them up in 3 different places. Evidence, proof, confirmation that Emma's journal was real, that this nightmare was actually happening. Then I did something else. I called Jennifer Harrison. Jennifer and I weren't close friends, but we were friendly. We served on the PTA together. Our daughters had been in Girl Scouts together years ago. She was a sweet woman, a devoted mother, married to Tom Harrison. Tom Harrison, who Rachel had been sleeping with last fall. Jennifer answered cheerfully, Sarah, how are you? I've been meaning to call. I'm so sorry about Emma. If there's anything Tom and I can do...
Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you something, I interrupted. It's kind of sensitive. Of course. What is it? I hesitated. Once I said this, there was no taking it back. But I needed to know if Emma's journal was accurate. I needed independent confirmation. How are things between you and Tom? I asked carefully. There was a long pause. Why do you ask? Because I think he might have been seeing someone last fall, and I think I know who it was. Another pause, longer this time. When Jennifer spoke again, her voice was different, harder. Rachel. My stomach dropped. You know? I suspected. There were signs, late nights, unexplained absences, weird phone behavior. I confronted Tom in December. He admitted to a brief affair. He said it was over, that it was a mistake, that it meant nothing. He begged me not to leave him. Did you know it was Rachel? He wouldn't tell me who it was, but I saw her name on his phone once, and the timing made sense. But Sarah, I never said anything to you because, well, what was I supposed to say? Your sister is sleeping with my husband? How do you have that conversation? I'm so sorry, I whispered. I didn't know. I just found out. How did you find out? I couldn't tell her the whole truth. Not yet, not until I'd confronted Rachel. I found some information among Emma's things. I think she knew. Oh, God. Jennifer's voice cracked. That poor girl. She was carrying that at 16? I think so. Sarah, I'm so sorry. For Emma, for you, for all of this mess. Tom and I are working through it and counseling. It's been hard, but we're trying. For the kids. But if I'd known Emma was involved, was keeping that secret, it's not your fault, I said. None of this is your fault. After we hung up, I sat in the gathering darkness of Emma's room and felt the reality of the situation settling over me like a heavy blanket. It was all true.
every word of Emma's journal, every text message, every manipulation. My sister had used my daughter as cover for an affair, and when Emma had threatened to tell me, Rachel had pressured her, guilted her, twisted everything around until Emma felt responsible for protecting everyone except herself. And then Emma had died on the way to Rachel's house, on a night when Rachel had begged her to come talk. I needed to know what had happened that night. I needed to know if Rachel was home when Emma drove to see her. I needed to know if they'd talked, if they'd fought, if Rachel had said something that sent Emma fleeing into the night, driving too fast, upset and distracted. I needed to know if my sister bore responsibility for Emma's death in a more direct way than I'd imagined. The next day, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went to the police station. Officer Martinez, the man who'd investigated Emma's accident, looked surprised to see me. "Mrs. Mitchell, how can I help you?" "I have some questions about Emma's accident, about where she was going that night." He gestured for me to sit. "Of course. What questions?" "You said she was on Old Mill Road. That's not on the way to her friend's house. That's not on the way to anywhere she would normally go." "We assumed she was taking the scenic route. Teenagers do that sometimes." "Did you check where she'd been before the accident? Did you try to figure out where she was headed?" Officer Martinez shifted uncomfortably. "Mrs. Mitchell, I understand this is difficult, but there was no indication that the accident was anything other than what it appeared to be, a tragic case of a young driver losing control on a wet road. We didn't see a need for extensive investigation." "What if I told you she might have been on the way to my sister's house? That my sister had asked her to come over that night?" "Had she?" "I found text messages. My sister asked Emma to come to her place. Emma was on the road that leads to my sister's condo when she crashed."
Officer Martinez leaned forward. "Are you suggesting your sister had something to do with the accident?" "I'm suggesting you didn't investigate where my daughter was going or why. I'm suggesting there might be more to this story than you initially thought. Mrs. Mitchell, even if Emma was going to your sister's house, that doesn't change the facts of the accident. She was driving too fast. The road was wet. She lost control. There's no evidence of foul play, no indication of another vehicle being involved. Sometimes accidents are just accidents." "But you didn't look," I insisted. "You didn't question anyone about where she was going or what she was doing that night. You just assumed." He sighed. "You're right. We didn't dig deeply because nothing suggested we should. If you want, I can reopen the investigation, look into the circumstances surrounding the drive. But Mrs. Mitchell, I need to be honest with you. I don't think we're going to find anything that changes the fundamental facts. Your daughter died in a single vehicle accident. That's tragic, but it's not suspicious. Just look into it," I said, "please. Look at her phone records. See if she called or texted anyone that night. Check if my sister was home. Just look." He nodded. "I'll look. I'll call you if I find anything relevant." I left the police station feeling unsatisfied. Officer Martinez was probably right. The accident was probably just an accident. But the timing, the location, the fact that Rachel had asked Emma to come over that very night, it was too coincidental, too convenient. Over the next few days, while Rachel was still in Portland, I became obsessed with reconstructing Emma's last day. I talked to her teachers, her friends, anyone who might have seen her or spoken to her. Her best friend Lily came to my house and cried as she told me about Emma's state of mind that last week. "She seemed stressed," she said, "like something was really bothering her." I asked what was wrong, and she said she had to do something hard, something she'd been putting off. I thought maybe she meant breaking up with Jake. They'd been kind of rocky. I didn't realize. "Did she mention my sister at all?" Lily hesitated. "She said something weird.
she said, "Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hurt you worst." I asked what she meant, and she just shook her head and said she'd tell me about it later. But later never came. Emma's other friends told similar stories. She'd been withdrawn, anxious, clearly carrying something heavy. Several mentioned that she'd stopped talking about her Aunt Rachel, which was notable because she used to mention Rachel constantly. It was like she was pulling away from everyone, like she was trying to deal with something on her own. Because that's what she'd been doing, dealing with Rachel's secrets on her own, struggling under the weight of lies she shouldn't have been carrying. On Thursday, Officer Martinez called me. "Mrs. Mitchell, I looked into your daughter's final movements like you asked. I pulled her phone records. She made one call that evening to your sister at 6:47 p.m., about 30 minutes before the accident. The call lasted 4 minutes. My heart started pounding. What did they talk about? I don't know. We don't record phone calls. But I called your sister and asked her about it. She said Emma called to tell her she couldn't make it to their planned meeting, that Emma sounded upset but wouldn't say why. Your sister says that was the last time she spoke to Emma. And you believe her?" "I have no reason not to." "But Mrs. Mitchell, there's something else. I checked the weather records and road conditions for that night. It had been raining heavily all day. Old Mill Road is dangerous even in good weather. Lots of curves, no guardrails. In the rain, driving at the speed we estimate Emma was going, it's not surprising she lost control. And the toxicology report showed no alcohol or drugs in her system. She wasn't impaired. She was just driving too fast in bad conditions." Maybe she was driving fast because she was upset. Maybe something happened during that phone call with Rachel that made her emotional, distracted. "Maybe," Officer Martinez said carefully, "but that still doesn't make it anything other than an accident. I'm sorry, Mrs. Mitchell. I know you're looking for answers, for someone to blame, but sometimes there just isn't anyone to blame. Sometimes terrible things happen for no reason. But there was someone to blame. Rachel. Not for the accident itself, perhaps, but for everything that led up to it. For putting Emma in a position where she was carrying impossible secrets. For the stress and anxiety that Emma had been living with for months. For whatever was said in that 4-minute phone call that sent Emma driving through the rain too fast, too upset to be careful. Rachel bore responsibility, even if it wasn't legal responsibility, even if it wasn't the kind of guilt that could be prosecuted. Friday evening came. I'd barely slept in the 3 days since finding the journal. I'd read it so many times, I had whole passages memorized. I'd looked at the text messages until my eyes burned. I'd built a case in my mind, a prosecution of my sister's betrayal. At 7 o'clock, Rachel's car pulled into my driveway. I watched her get out, watched her grab a bag from the back seat, probably food she'd brought or flowers or some other gesture of sympathy. She looked tired, I noticed. There were circles under her eyes. Good, I thought bitterly. She should be tired. She should be suffering. She knocked on the door. I opened it and looked at my sister. This person I'd trusted completely. This person I thought I knew better than anyone. "Sarah," she said, stepping forward to hug me. I stepped back. "Don't." She froze, confusion crossing her face. "What's wrong?" "Come inside. We need to talk." I led her to the living room. Emmy's journal was sitting on the coffee table. I'd placed it there deliberately, wanting her to see it, wanting her to understand immediately what this conversation was about. Rachel saw it. I watched the color drain from her face. "Where did you find that?" she whispered. "In Emma's room, under her mattress. She wrote everything down, Rachel. Every lie, every manipulation, every secret you made her keep. Rachel sank into the chair across from me. Her hands were shaking. Sarah, I can explain. You can explain how you use my 16-year-old daughter as cover for your affair? You can explain how you manipulated her into lying to me for months. You can explain how you poisoned my relationship with my own child. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? My voice was rising now, months of grief and rage finally finding their target. Tell me, Rachel. Tell me how it was. Because from where I'm sitting, reading Emma's words, looking at your text messages, it looks exactly like you used my daughter and destroyed the last year of her life. Rachel was crying now. I never meant to hurt Emma. I never meant for any of this to happen. It just got out of control. You had an affair with a married man and used my daughter as your alibi. You made her lie to me repeatedly. You manipulated her, guilted her, made her feel responsible for protecting you. And when she finally decided to tell me the truth, she died. She died on the way to see you, Rachel. The last phone call she ever made was to you. What did you say to her? Nothing. I just told her we could talk it through, that we could figure something out. Figure what out? How to keep manipulating her? How to keep her lying? No. I was going to tell her she could tell you, that I'd accept the consequences. I knew I'd messed up. I knew it had gone too far. But then she said she couldn't come over, that she needed space, and she hung up, and then Rachel's voice broke completely. And then she died. And I've been living with that guilt every single day. I stared at my sister.
The affair with Tom Harrison had started at a community fundraiser in July. He'd been unhappy in his marriage, Rachel said. She'd been lonely. They'd connected. It was a classic story, banal and predictable, except for the part where my sister had involved my 16-year-old daughter in covering it up. I asked Emma to cover for me the first time almost as a joke, Rachel said, wiping her eyes. I was supposed to have dinner with you that Thursday, but Tom had surprised me with reservations at that Italian place in Portland. So I called Emma and said, if your mom asks where I am, tell her we went to a movie. I didn't think it was a big deal, just a little white lie. But it wasn't just once, I said flatly. No, it wasn't. Rachel's voice was hoarse from crying. It became easier to use Emma as an alibi than to make up elaborate stories you might check. Emma was trustworthy. You never questioned it when I said I was with her, so I kept asking her to cover for me. And she kept saying yes, because you manipulated her. I didn't think of it as manipulation at the time, Rachel said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. I thought of it as sharing my life with my niece, treating her like an adult. She seemed to like feeling trusted with grown-up information. She was 16, Rachel. She was a child, your child niece, and you made her complicit in your affair. Rachel flinched. I know it was wrong. But Sarah, you have to understand, I was in love. Or I thought I was. Tom made me feel things I hadn't felt in years. And when you're in that fog of infatuation, you don't think clearly. You justify things you shouldn't justify. Don't blame your affair for this, I said coldly. Plenty of people have affairs without involving teenagers. That was a choice you made. A separate, deliberate choice to use Emma. You're right, Rachel whispered. You're absolutely right. She told me about the day Emma had walked in on her and Tom.
how panicked she'd been, how she'd begged Emma not to tell me, painting me as judgmental and narrow-minded so Emma would feel protective of her rather than loyal to me. I knew what I was doing, Rachel admitted. I knew I was driving a wedge between you and Emma, but I was desperate. I thought if you found out about Tom, you'd hate me. You'd tell Jennifer, Tom would lose his family, everything would explode. So I made Emma feel responsible for preventing that explosion. You made my daughter feel like she had to protect everyone except herself. You made her carry a burden that wasn't hers. You took advantage of her love for you, her desire to be seen as mature and trustworthy. You exploited her, Rachel. I did, and I hate myself for it. Every single day since she died, I've hated myself. Tell me about the other man, the one Emma called Jay in her journal. Rachel went very still. How did you? Emma wrote everything down, every detail, every lie. Who was he? Rachel took a shaky breath. His name is James. James Morrison. He's married too, has 2 kids. I met him at a work conference in January. James Morrison. I knew that name. He was a doctor at the hospital where my mother had worked before she retired, a respected physician. Another married man, another set of lies. And you used Emma to cover for that affair too. I said, yes, I know it was wrong. I knew it then, but by that point the pattern was established. Emma was used to covering for me. It seemed easier to just continue. Easier, I repeated, the word tasting like poison. It was easier to keep lying to me, to keep using my daughter, than to just be honest. I was going to tell you, Rachel said desperately. I was working up to it, but I was scared. Scared of losing you, losing Emma, losing our family. Every time I thought about confessing, I'd panic and put it off. And meanwhile, Emma was falling apart under the weight of your secrets. Rachel's face crumpled. I didn't realize how much it was affecting her. She seemed fine, a little distant sometimes, but I thought that was just normal teenage stuff. I didn't know she was writing in that journal. I didn't know how guilty she felt. You didn't know because you didn't want to know. You were too focused on your own needs, your own drama to notice what this was doing to a 16-year-old girl. Your niece, the child you claimed to love like a daughter? I did love her like a daughter. No, I interrupted sharply. You don't do this to someone you love. You don't burden them with your lies. You don't manipulate them into betraying their own mother. You don't make them choose between loyalty to you and honesty with the person who loves them most in the world. That's not love, Rachel. That's selfishness. That's cruelty. Rachel buried her face in her hands, sobbing. I felt nothing watching her cry. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her. Just cold, hard anger. Tell me about the night she died. Tell me exactly what happened. Rachel lifted her head, her face blotchy and wet. She called me around 6:30. She said she'd decided to tell you everything that weekend, that she couldn't do it anymore, couldn't keep lying. I panicked. I begged her to come over so we could talk first. I told her we could figure out a way to tell you together, that we could control the narrative. Control the narrative, I repeated. You were still trying to manipulate her. I was trying to protect myself, Rachel said quietly. I know that's terrible to admit, but it's the truth. I was scared of what you'd think of me, scared of the fallout, scared of losing you. So I asked Emma to come over. But she said no. At first she said yes. She agreed to come by after dinner. But then she called back an hour later. She sounded different, angry. She said she changed her mind, that she was going to tell you that night instead of waiting. She said she was done protecting me, done choosing me over you. She said, Rachel's voice broke. She said she'd stolen a year of her relationship with her mother, and she'd never forgive me for that. The words hit me like a fist. Emma had said that. Emma had recognized what Rachel had done, had named it clearly. My daughter had chosen me in the end, but she'd never gotten the chance to tell me. What did you say to her? I asked. I begged her to reconsider. I told her she was making a huge mistake, that telling you would only hurt you more, that she'd regret it. I said, Rachel hesitated. Say it, I commanded. I said her timing was terrible, that you were still fragile from your divorce, still struggling financially, still dealing with being a single mother. I said finding out about all this would break you. I made her feel responsible for preventing that explosion. You tried to manipulate her one more time. Yes, and it didn't work. She said, my mom is stronger than you think. She's stronger than both of us, and she deserves the truth. Then she hung up. That was the last time I spoke to her. I sat with that for a moment. Emma's last words to Rachel. My mom is stronger than you think. She believed in me. She trusted that I could handle the truth, and she'd been right.
Did you try to call her back? I asked. Yes, multiple times. She didn't answer. I texted her, begged her to call me. Nothing. Then a few hours later, you called me. You were at the hospital, and you told me... Rachel couldn't finish the sentence. I told you Emma was dead. Yes, Rachel was crying again. And I knew that if I just let her go, if I just said, okay, tell your mom, instead of trying to manipulate her one more time, maybe she wouldn't have been so upset. Maybe she wouldn't have been driving so fast. Maybe she'd still be alive. So you think your conversation with her contributed to the accident, I said slowly. I don't know. Maybe. Probably. She was angry when we hung up, emotional. If that affected her driving, Rachel looked at me with haunted eyes. I'll never know for sure, but I have to live with the possibility that my selfishness, my last attempt at manipulation, might have gotten her killed. We sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, the spring darkness was complete. Inside, the truth sat between us like a living thing. There's something else, Rachel said quietly. Something I haven't told anyone. I waited. The day of Emma's funeral, before the service started, I went to the funeral home early. I wanted to see her alone, to say goodbye. And her voice cracked. I apologized to her. I told her I was sorry for everything, for using her, for putting her in that impossible position, and I promised her that I'd never tell you, that I'd keep the secret even after she was gone, because she'd already sacrificed so much to protect you from this truth. Rage flooded through me, hot and sudden. You were going to keep lying to me, even after Emma died? I thought I was protecting you, Rachel said desperately. I thought it would be kinder to let you grieve without knowing about all this mess, without knowing that Emma's last year was so complicated and painful. I thought ignorance would be easier for you. You thought wrong, I said, my voice shaking. You thought wrong about everything, about what Emma could handle, what I could handle, about what was right and what was kind. You got everything wrong, Rachel, every single thing. I know that now, Rachel whispered. I know. I stood up, pacing the room because I couldn't sit still anymore. The anger was too big, too consuming. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw things.
I wanted to hurt Rachel the way she'd hurt Emma, the way she'd hurt me. But violence wouldn't fix this. Nothing would fix this. I loved you, I said, stopping to face her. You were my sister, my best friend, the person I trusted most in the world besides Emma. And you used that trust. You weaponized it. You took advantage of my daughter's love for you, and you destroyed something precious. I'm so sorry. Stop saying you're sorry, I shouted. Sorry doesn't mean anything. Sorry doesn't bring Emma back. Sorry doesn't give me back the year you stole from us. Sorry is just a word you're using to try to feel better about yourself. Rachel flinched like I'd struck her. Good. I wanted her to hurt. I wanted her to feel even a fraction of the pain I was feeling. Do you know what the worst part is? I asked, my voice dropping to almost a whisper. The worst part is that Emma died thinking she was protecting me. She spent a year protecting me from your secrets, believing you when you said I was too fragile, too judgmental, too rigid to handle the truth. You planted those ideas in her head. You made her doubt me. That's not true, Rachel said. Emma loved you. She thought you were strong. In the end, yes. In her last phone call to you, yes. But for months before that, she believed your lies about me. She thought I couldn't handle complexity, couldn't understand adult situations, couldn't be trusted with difficult truths. You planted those ideas in her head. You made her doubt me. Rachel opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no defense for this because there was no defense. I continued. Emma and I could have talked about this. If you'd told me about the affair when it started, if you'd been honest, Emma and I could have discussed it together. I could have helped her process it. I could have explained that adults make mistakes, that situations are complicated, that my love for you was strong enough to survive knowing you'd messed up. But you took that possibility away from us. You took Emma's chance to be honest with me. You took my chance to help my daughter through a difficult situation. You stole that from both of us. I didn't think. No, you didn't think. You didn't think about anyone but yourself. I walked to the window, looked out on the dark street. Everything looked normal out there. Cars and driveways, porch lights on, people living their ordinary lives, unaware that in this house, a family was disintegrating. I talked to Jennifer Harrison. She knew about the affair. She and Tom are in counseling, trying to save their marriage. Did you know that? No. I said to tell you that she forgives you because holding on to anger will only hurt her more. She said she's choosing peace. I turned to face Rachel. I don't have her strength. I can't forgive you. I don't even want to try. What you did, using Emma, manipulating her, stealing that year from us, it's unforgivable. Rachel's face was a mask of anguish. Sarah, please, you're my sister, my only sister. We can get through this. No, I said firmly. We can't, because I don't want to get through this with you. I don't want you in my life anymore. I don't want to see you or talk to you or pretend we're family. You broke something that can't be fixed. You don't mean that. I absolutely mean it. I picked up Emma's journal from the coffee table and held it up. This is my daughter's final testimony. These are her words, her truth, her pain, and every page of it is a record of your betrayal. How can I look at you and not see this? How can I hug you and not feel sick? How can I call you my sister when you did this to my child? Rachel stood up, reaching for me. Sarah, I love you. I love Emma. This was the biggest mistake of my life, but it doesn't erase 20 years of being there for you, of helping you raise her, of being a part of your family. You weren't helping me raise her. You were using her. And maybe you were using me too. Maybe all those years of support and help and being there, maybe that was just you positioning yourself to have access to Emma when you needed her. That's not true. I genuinely loved both of you. Then prove it. Prove you love me by leaving, by respecting my boundary when I tell you I can't have you in my life anymore, by not making this harder than it already is. Rachel stood there, tears streaming down her face, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. If I leave now, we'll never fix this. The gap will just get wider and wider until there's no bridge back. Good, I said. I don't want a bridge back. I want you gone.
Sarah, get out, my voice was steel. Get out of my house, get out of my life. I don't want to see you at family gatherings. I don't want birthday cards or text messages or attempts at reconciliation. I want nothing from you except your absence. Rachel grabbed her purse with shaking hands. What are you going to tell people? Mom and Dad? Our extended family? The truth. I'm going to tell them exactly what you did. They'll hate me. They should hate you. What you did is hateful. Rachel walked to the door, then turned back. Emma wouldn't want this. She wouldn't want us to be torn apart. Don't you dare, I said, my voice dangerous. Don't you dare use my daughter to try to manipulate me. You've done enough. You don't get to speak for Emma anymore. You don't get to tell me what she would want. You lost that right when you used her. Rachel's face crumpled, but she didn't argue. She opened the door and stepped out into the night. Rachel? I called after her. She turned, hope flickering across her face. If you really loved Emma, if you really loved me, you'll honor my wishes. You'll leave us alone. That's the only thing you can do for us now. She nodded once, then walked to her car. I watched her drive away, watched the taillights disappear down the street. Then I closed the door and locked it. And then I broke down. I collapsed on the floor and sobbed for Emma, for the year we'd lost, for the sister I thought I had who turned out to be someone else entirely. I cried until I had nothing left, until I was empty and exhausted and hollowed out. When I finally pulled myself together, I picked up my phone and called my parents. Mom, I said when she answered, I need to talk to you and Dad. Can I come over? Of course, honey. Is everything okay? No, nothing is okay. But you need to know the truth about Rachel. You need to know what she did to Emma. I drove to my parents' house and told them everything. Showed them Emma's journal. Showed them the text messages. Told them about Rachel's confession. My mother cried. My father, normally stoic, looked like he'd aged 10 years in the span of an hour. I don't understand, my mother kept saying. How could she do this? How could Rachel use Emma that way? I don't know, Mom, but she did. My father was quiet for a long time. Then he said, she's still our daughter. We love her. But what she did, it's unforgivable. I don't know how to reconcile those two things. You don't have to reconcile them. You can love her and still acknowledge that what she did was wrong. You can love her and still support my decision not to have her in my life. We support you, my mother said firmly, taking my hand. Whatever you need, whatever you decide, we support you. Over the next few days, the truth spread through our family and community like wildfire. I didn't hide it. I didn't protect Rachel. I told anyone who asked exactly what had happened. Some people were shocked. Some had suspected something was off. Everyone agreed that what Rachel had done was wrong. Rachel's friends started avoiding her. Her position at work became uncomfortable when people heard about the affairs with married men. Her reputation, built over years, crumbled in days. I felt no satisfaction in her downfall. Just emptiness. Just grief. A week after our confrontation, Officer Martinez called me again. Mrs. Mitchell, I finished the investigation into your daughter's accident. I wanted to give you my findings. Okay. There's no evidence of foul play. The accident was exactly what we initially thought. Speed and weather conditions. However, I did speak with several of Emma's friends and teachers. They all confirmed that she'd been under significant stress in the weeks leading up to her death. That stress likely contributed to her emotional state that night, which may have affected her driving. So Rachel's actions contributed to the accident, even if she didn't cause it directly. That's one way to look at it,
But legally, your sister isn't responsible. Morally, ethically, that's between you and her. But from a legal standpoint, there's no case against her. I'd expected that answer, but hearing it still hurt. Thank you for looking into it, I said. Mrs. Mitchell, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. I'm sorry your daughter carried those burdens. I'm sorry your sister betrayed your trust, and I'm sorry the law can't give you the justice you deserve. When we hung up, I sat in Emma's room. I'd been spending a lot of time there and thought about justice. Rachel wouldn't face legal consequences. She'd face social consequences, sure, but she'd survive them. She'd rebuild her life eventually, move to a new city, make new friends, start over. But I would never get my daughter back. I would never get that stolen year back. I would live the rest of my life knowing that Emma's last months had been painful and complicated in ways they shouldn't have been. That was the real injustice. Not that Rachel would escape punishment, but that Emma had suffered, and I hadn't been there to help her. I picked up Emma's journal and read the last entry again, the one written the day she died. Tomorrow, I'm telling Mom everything. I'm done protecting Aunt Rachel. I'm done lying. I'm done feeling like I'm betraying the person who's loved me the most in this world. Aunt Rachel will be angry. She might never forgive me.
I could live the life she'd wanted me to live. Strong, honest, unwilling to accept betrayal or manipulation. I could be the mother she'd believed I was, the one who was strong enough to handle difficult truths. That would be my way of keeping Emma with me, of making sure her choice, her courage, her love, that none of it was wasted. The weeks after confronting Rachel were strange, lonely in some ways, but also clarifying. I'd lost my sister, but I'd gained something too, a clear understanding of who the people in my life really were and what I would and wouldn't accept. My parents struggled with the situation. They loved Rachel, had raised her, couldn't simply erase 44 years of being her parents, but they also couldn't defend what she'd done. They settled into an uncomfortable middle ground. They stayed in contact with her, but they didn't pressure me to reconcile. They respected my boundaries, even as it pained them to see their daughters estranged. I keep thinking about all the time she was at family dinners, my mother said one afternoon when she came over to help me sort through Emma's things. All those Sundays when she'd sit at our table with Emma, laughing and talking, and the whole time she was using that poor child as cover for her lies? How did I not see it? Because she didn't want you to see it, I said. Rachel is good at presenting the version of herself that people want to see. That's how manipulation works. My mother picked up one of Emma's sweaters, held it to her face. I miss her so much. Every day I wake up and for just a second I forget she's gone. Then I remember, and it's like losing her all over again. I know, Mom. I feel the same way. Do you think... She hesitated. Do you think Emma knew we loved her? Despite all the mess with Rachel, despite the secrets she was carrying, do you think she knew? I thought about Emma's journal, about the entries where she'd written about missing me, about wanting to tell me everything, about choosing me in the end. Yes, I said firmly, she knew. She absolutely knew. About a month after the confrontation, I received an unexpected visit. Jennifer Harrison showed up at my door on a Saturday morning, holding a coffee cake and looking nervous. She said, I hope it's okay that I came by. I just wanted to check on you and to talk if you're willing. I invited her in.
We sat in the kitchen, and for a while we just made small talk, safe topics like the weather and the end of the school year. Then Jennifer set down her coffee and looked at me directly. I want you to know that I don't blame you for what Rachel did. Some people in town have been saying you should have known, should have controlled your sister better. That's ridiculous. You're not responsible for her choices. Thank you for saying that. And I want to tell you something else. Tom and I are separating. Not because of the affair. We'd worked through that. Or we were trying to. But because I realized that staying with someone just to keep a family together isn't the same as actually having a family. Emma's death made me think about how short life is, how we shouldn't waste time on relationships that don't honor us. I'm sorry it didn't work out. I'm not. I'm sad for what could have been, but I'm not sorry for choosing myself for once. And Emma, I know this sounds strange, but Emma's courage helped me find mine. Learning that she was carrying all that weight, that she finally decided to tell the truth no matter what it cost her, that inspired me. If a 16-year-old could be that brave, then so could I. I felt tears prickling my eyes. She would have liked knowing that. I received hundreds of emails from parents thanking me for sharing Emma's story, from teenagers who'd been in similar situations, carrying secrets for adults, feeling trapped, from people who'd been manipulated by family members and hadn't known how to name what was happening to them. Your daughter's story helped me understand my own situation, one teenager wrote. My uncle has been asking me to lie to my parents about things for years. I thought it was normal, thought I was being mature by keeping his secrets. But reading about Emma, I realized I was being used. I told my parents everything. Thank you for helping me find my voice. Those messages meant everything. They meant Emma's pain hadn't been meaningless, that something good could come from something so terrible. I started a small support group at the local community center, a place where teenagers could come talk about difficult family situations, about pressure from adults, about secrets they were being asked to keep. A therapist I knew volunteered to facilitate it. We called it Emma's Circle, a safe space for young people to tell their truths without fear of judgment or repercussion. It grew quickly. Within 3 months, we had 20 regular attendees, kids who'd been carrying impossible burdens, who needed permission to set them down. One girl, about Emma's age, came to every session. After the 3rd meeting, she approached me privately. My aunt has been asking me to cover for her when she goes out with men she meets online, she said, her voice shaking. She says my mom is too strict, too controlling, that she needs privacy. But it feels wrong. I feel wrong. It is wrong, I said gently, and you don't have to carry that for her. Would you like help telling your parents? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm scared they'll be mad at me. They won't be mad at you. They'll be proud of you for being honest, and they'll be angry at your aunt for putting you in that position, which is where the anger belongs. I helped her tell her parents. I was there when she found her voice, when she set down the burden she'd been carrying. I watched her mother hug her and tell her she'd done the right thing, that she was brave, that they would protect her. And I thought, this is what Emma needed. This is what I should have provided for her. But at least I can provide it for others. The support group became my purpose, my way of channeling grief into something constructive, my way of making sure no other parent lost the kind of closeness with their child that I'd lost with Emma. Rachel tried to contact me several times over those first few months. Emails, text messages, letters sent through my parents, all saying the same things. I'm sorry, I miss you, please let me explain, can we talk? I never responded. I'd said everything I needed to say the night I confronted her. There was nothing more to discuss. My parents told me she'd moved to Seattle, started over in a new city where people didn't know about her scandals. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know about her life anymore. But 6 months after Emma's death, something unexpected happened. I received a package in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting was Rachel's. Inside was a letter and a check. The check was for $50,000. The letter said, "Sarah, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I've lost the right to be in your life, but I need you to know that I've been working with a therapist, trying to understand how I became the kind of person who could do what I did to Emma, trying to understand the selfishness and manipulation that I'd somehow justified to myself. I'm writing not to ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm writing because my therapist suggested I make amends in whatever way I can, even though I know nothing can truly make amends for what I've done. The enclosed check is from the sale of my condo. I'm moving to a smaller apartment. I don't need the extra money, and I want you to have it. Use it however you see fit. Emma's college fund that she never got to use, a scholarship in her name, your support group, anything. It's not enough. It will never be enough. But it's something. I loved Emma. I know you don't believe me now, but it's true. I loved her, and I betrayed that love in the worst possible way. I used her when I should have protected her. I put my needs above hers when I should have been her advocate. But I want you to know that I'm trying to become someone different, someone who doesn't manipulate or use people, someone who takes responsibility for her actions, someone Emma would have been proud to know. I'm sorry will never be enough, but I'm sorry anyway. Rachel. I stared at that check for a long time. $50,000. Money I could use for Emma's circle, for scholarships, for programs to help teenagers in difficult situations. But I didn't want Rachel's money. I didn't want anything from her. Except, wasn't I being selfish if I refused it? If this money could help other kids, other families, wasn't it wrong to reject it just because of where it came from? I called my therapist. I'd started seeing one shortly after confronting Rachel. She'd been helping me process the grief, the betrayal, the complicated tangle of emotions. "What do you want to do with the check?" Dr. Chen asked. "I want to tear it up and send it back to her. But that money could do good. It could help kids like Emma. And refusing it wouldn't hurt Rachel. She's already given the money away. It would only hurt the people I could help with it." So you're facing a choice between your principles and your mission. Yes. Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. What would Emma want you to do? I thought about that, about my daughter who'd chosen truth over comfort, who'd been brave enough to tell me everything despite her fear, about Emma who'd written in her journal about wanting to help people, about wanting to be a counselor someday because she learned how much pain young people could carry in silence. Emma would want me to help people, I said slowly. She wouldn't care where the money came from. She'd care about what it could do. Then I think you have your answer. I deposited the check, and I used every penny of it to establish the Emma Rose Mitchell Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting teenagers dealing with family manipulation, with inappropriate adult demands, with secrets they shouldn't have to keep. We hired a full-time counselor. We expanded Emma's circle to 3 different locations. We created educational materials for parents about recognizing when adults are manipulating their children. We train teachers and school counselors to identify kids who might be carrying impossible burdens. The foundation became bigger than I had imagined, more important, more needed. And in building it, I found a strange kind of peace, not happiness. I would never be truly happy again, not with Emma gone, but purpose, direction, a way to transform pain into something meaningful. I never responded to Rachel's letter, never acknowledged the money, but I made sure the foundation's website included Emma's story, not the full details, but enough to explain why we existed. And I mentioned that the founding donation had come from someone who learned too late the damage that manipulation and secrets could cause. Let that be Rachel's legacy. Not the sister who betrayed me, but the cautionary tale that might prevent others from making similar mistakes. 1 year after Emma's death, I held a memorial event. Not a somber, sad gathering, but a celebration of Emma's life and the work being done in her name. Over 200 people attended, Emma's friends, teachers, community members, families who'd been helped by Emma's circle, teenagers who'd found their voices through our programs. My parents were there, some of our extended family, friends who'd supported me through the darkest year of my life. Rachel wasn't there. I hadn't invited her, but I knew she knew about the event. My mother had mentioned that Rachel followed the foundation's social media accounts, that she saw every post, every update, every story of a young person being helped. During the memorial, several teenagers spoke about how Emma's story had changed their lives, how it had given them courage to be honest, how it had helped them understand that they weren't responsible for protecting adults from the consequences of adult choices. One girl said, Emma never got to tell her truth while she was alive, but her truth is being told now through all of us. And it's saving lives. It's saving relationships between parents and kids. It's teaching us that secrets are heavy and honesty is healing. Emma's voice is still here, still mattering, still making a difference. I cried during that speech. Healing tears, not just grief tears, tears that acknowledged both the loss and the legacy. After the event, as I was cleaning up, I noticed someone had left a bouquet of purple flowers, Emma's favorite color, near her photo display. There was a card attached. I'm so proud of who you're becoming through this pain. I'm so sorry for the pain itself. Always are. Rachel had been there, or someone had delivered the flowers for her. Either way, she was watching from a distance, witnessing what had been built from the rubble of her betrayal. I left the flowers there. They were beautiful, and Emma would have liked them. I still thought about Rachel sometimes, wondered if she'd truly changed, wondered if she'd found peace, or if guilt followed her everywhere, wondered if she thought about Emma as often as I did. But I didn't reach out, didn't break the boundary I'd established. Some relationships, once broken, can't be repaired. Some betrayals are too fundamental, too destructive. Rachel had stolen something from me that I could never get back. Time with my daughter. Honest, open, connected time. She'd stolen Emma's peace of mind during what turned out to be her final year of life. She'd stolen the possibility of Emma coming to me with her burdens, of me helping my daughter through a difficult situation. Those were thefts that couldn't be forgiven. Not because I was holding a grudge, but because forgiveness would require pretending the damage was less than it was, and I refused to minimize what Rachel had done. But I also refused to let Rachel's betrayal destroy me, refused to let it define the rest of my life, refused to let bitterness poison everything the way secrets had poisoned my last year with Emma. So I chose something different. I chose purpose. I chose to help others. I chose to build something good from something terrible. Emma's circle continued to grow. The foundation expanded. More teenagers found safe spaces to tell their truths. More families learned about healthy boundaries and the damage manipulation causes. And I taught, not just English at the high school, but life lessons through Emma's story, about honesty, about courage, about refusing to carry burdens that aren't yours, about standing up for yourself even when it costs you relationships. I became the mother Emma had believed I was, strong enough to handle difficult truths, brave enough to set boundaries, honest enough to call betrayal what it was. I became the person Emma needed me to be, even though she was no longer here to see it. And maybe that was its own kind of justice. Not legal justice. Rachel would never face charges for what she'd done. Not even social justice. She'd started over in a new city where her past didn't follow her. But personal justice. The justice of becoming more yourself, more authentic, more aligned with your values because of what you've been through. The justice of taking pain and transforming it into purpose. The justice of making sure your child's suffering meant something, helped someone, changed the world in however small a way. That was the justice I could create, and it was enough. Not enough to erase the grief, not enough to bring Emma back, not enough to undo what Rachel had done, but enough to keep living, enough to keep trying, enough to honor my daughter's memory by being the person she'd believed in. Enough to make sure that Emma Rose Mitchell's voice, silenced too soon, still echoed through the lives she touched and the people she helped even after death. That was all I could do. And so I did it, every day, one teenager at a time, one honest conversation at a time. For Emma. Always for Emma. It's been 3 years since I found Emma's journal. 3 years since my world split into before and after. Before I knew the truth, after I couldn't unknow it. I'm sitting in Emma's room right now, though I've stopped calling it that in my head. It's become my office, the place where I work on foundation business, where I write grant proposals and respond to emails from families seeking help. I've kept some of Emma's things, her photos on the wall, her favorite books on the shelf, that purple journal in a glass case on the desk, not as a shrine, but as a reminder of why this work matters, of what silence costs. The room gets sunlight in the afternoons, just like it always did, but now that sunlight falls on paperwork for Emma's Circle, on testimonials from teenagers who've found their voices, on thank you cards from parents whose relationships with their children have been saved by honest conversation. Yesterday, a mother came to see me. Her daughter had been attending Emma's Circle for 6 months, and she wanted to thank me personally.
My sister was asking my daughter to lie for her, the woman said, crying, about where she went, who she was with, just like what happened with Emma. But my daughter came to your group, and she learned she didn't have to carry those secrets. She told me everything. And now my sister is getting help. My daughter and I are closer than ever, and our family is healing. I hugged her and let her cry and thought, this is why. This is the point of all of it. I think about Rachel sometimes, though less often than I used to. My parents tell me she's still in Seattle, still in therapy, still living a quieter life. She's working a regular job now, not in pharmaceutical sales anymore, just a position at a medical supply company. No more traveling, no more flexibility to hide affairs behind a busy schedule. Mom says Rachel asks about me, asks about the foundation, wants to know if I'm okay. Tell her I'm fine, I always say, and tell her nothing else. I don't hate Rachel anymore. Hate takes too much energy, and I need that energy for other things. But I don't forgive her either. Some people think that's cold. that holding on to unforgiveness is unhealthy, that it only hurts me. But they're wrong. I've made peace with what happened. I've processed the betrayal and the loss. I've built a meaningful life from the ruins. That's healing. That's health. Forgiveness would require something I'm not willing to give, a relationship with Rachel, an acknowledgement that what she did was forgivable, a message to the world that you can manipulate children, poison family relationships, and still be welcomed back if you say sorry enough times. I won't send that message, not even for the sake of family peace, not even to make my parents' lives easier. Some betrayals are final. Some doors once closed should stay closed. And I'm okay with that. The foundation held its third annual fundraiser last month. We raised nearly $200,000, enough to expand to 2 more cities, enough to hire additional counselors, enough to create a scholarship program for teenagers who've overcome family manipulation and want to pursue careers in psychology or social work. We named the scholarship after Emma, of course, the Emma Rose Mitchell Courage Award, because that's what it took for her to decide to tell the truth. Courage. And that's what we want to honor and encourage in others. 5 teenagers received the scholarship this year. I met each of them, heard their stories. Stories of uncles who used them as alibis, of grandparents who asked them to keep financial secrets from their parents, of family friends who manipulated them into lying about inappropriate behavior. Stories that could have been Emma's story. Stories that, because of Emma's story, had different endings. I almost didn't tell anyone, one scholarship recipient said. I was so scared of breaking up my family. But then I read about Emma on your website, about how she died still carrying secrets she shouldn't have been carrying. And I thought, I don't want that to be me. I don't want to die with lies still on my tongue. So I told. And yes, it was hard. Yes, things got messy. But I'm free now, and I'm alive, and I can look my parents in the eye. That's what Emma gave to the world through her death and her journal. Permission for others to tell their truths. Evidence that silence can be deadly. A cautionary tale that might save lives. Her death wasn't meaningless. Her suffering wasn't wasted. And that helps, even though I'd trade all of it, the foundation, the scholarships, every teenager we've helped, just to have her back. Just to have one more conversation. Just to tell her I'm sorry I didn't see what she was carrying. That I'm proud she chose me in the end. That I would have understood, would have helped, would have loved her through it all. But I can't have those things. So I have this instead. This work, this purpose, this way of keeping Emma's voice alive in the world. I still teach English at the high school, still grade papers and plan lessons, and show up for parent-teacher conferences. But now I also teach a unit on healthy family relationships, on recognizing manipulation, on understanding that just because someone is family doesn't mean they have the right to ask you to lie. My students know about Emma, not all the details, but the important parts. They know I lost my daughter. They know I started the foundation in her name. They know that honesty matters to me in ways that go beyond not cheating on tests. Some of them have come to me privately over the years, telling me about difficult situations at home, about adults asking them to keep secrets, about feeling torn between loyalty and integrity. And I helped them, every single one, because that's what I couldn't do for Emma, but I can do for them. Last week, a senior girl stayed after class. She was crying, shaking, clearly terrified. My mom's boyfriend has been asking me to tell my mom he's been home when he hasn't. He says he's planning a surprise for her, but it feels wrong. It feels like Emma's story. What do I do?
We talked. I helped her understand that surprises don't require months of lying, that her discomfort was valid, important, worth listening to, that she needed to tell her mother. She did. Turned out the boyfriend wasn't planning a surprise. he was having an affair. The girl's mother ended the relationship, thanked her daughter for being honest, and they're closer now than they've been in years. "You saved my relationship with my mom," the girl told me later, "just like Emma saved yours." But Emma didn't save our relationship. She tried to, and she died before she could. That's the painful truth I live with every day. Still, in a way, she did save something. She saved other relationships, other mothers and daughters, other families who might have fallen into the same trap of secrets and manipulation if not for the warning her story provided. My parents are proud of the work I'm doing, though it pains them that it came from such tragedy. They remain in limited contact with Rachel, but they respect my boundaries. They don't ask me to reconcile. They don't try to facilitate secret meetings. They accept that their daughters will never be sisters again, and they've made peace with that as best they can. "You're exactly the mother Emma knew you were," my dad said recently. "Strong, principled, unwilling to compromise on what matters. She was right about you all along." That made me cry. Not sad tears, proud tears, grateful tears. Emma had seen me clearly, even when I hadn't seen the situation clearly. She'd trusted in my strength, even when I didn't know I had it. She'd believed in me. And I'm trying every day to deserve that belief. I date occasionally now. Nothing serious, but I'm open to the possibility of companionship. Emma would want that for me, would want me to have love and support and connection. She wrote about it in her journal once, months before she died. "I hope Mom finds someone who makes her happy. She deserves happiness. She deserves someone who sees how amazing she is." I'm not sure I'll ever remarry. The work with the foundation, the teaching, the daily business of living and grieving and growing, it fills my life completely. But I'm not closed off anymore, not locked in the prison of grief the way I was that first year. I've learned to laugh again, to enjoy small pleasures, morning coffee, good books, walks by the river, to find joy in the progress teenagers make, in the families that heal, in the work that continues. Emma's death broke me, but I've put myself back together, and the person who emerged from that breaking is stronger than before, more honest, more aware, more purposeful. I wish I hadn't had to become this person through losing my daughter. I wish there was a version of this story where Emma lived, where she told me Rachel's secrets, where we processed it together and came through it closer than before. But that's not the story I got. This is the story I got. The one with the devastating loss and the betrayal and the journal that changed everything. And I've chosen to write the rest of the story myself. The foundation, the advocacy, the refusal to let Emma's suffering be meaningless, the determination to save other families from similar pain. That's the story I'm telling now, the one where tragedy transforms into purpose, where a mother's grief becomes a catalyst for change, where one girl's journal starts a movement that protects thousands of other children. I'm writing this down, all of it, because I want other parents to know. Pay attention to your children. Notice when they pull away. Ask questions when something feels off. Don't assume everything is fine just because it looks fine on the surface. And if you discover, as I did, that someone has been using your child, manipulating them, burdening them with secrets, believe your child. Protect your child. Choose your child over loyalty to whoever betrayed that trust. Some relationships are worth sacrificing to preserve the one that matters most. The relationship between parent and child. The bond that should be sacred. The trust that should never be weaponized.
I learned that too late to save my relationship with Emma, but maybe you won't. Maybe you'll read this and recognize the signs I missed. Maybe you'll ask the questions I didn't ask. Maybe you'll create the safety I didn't create until it was too late. And maybe your daughter won't die carrying secrets that weren't hers to carry. Maybe your family story will have a different ending than mine. That's my hope. That's the point of telling this story, painful as it is. That's why I keep Emma's journal in a glass case instead of hidden in a drawer. That's why I talk about what Rachel did instead of protecting her reputation. That's why I refuse to be silent about the betrayal that cost me my daughter. Because silence is what enabled all of this. Rachel's silence about her affairs, Emma's silence about the secrets she was carrying, my silence because I didn't ask enough questions, didn't push hard enough when Emma pulled away, didn't recognize the signs of a child under pressure.
So I'm done with silence. I'm choosing noise, confrontation, uncomfortable truth-telling. I'm choosing to be the voice Emma needed me to be. 3 years later, I can sit in this room, her room, my office, the space where past and present meet, and feel something besides crushing grief. I feel purpose. I feel determination. I feel hope that the work we're doing matters, that lives are being changed, that Emma's story is preventing other tragedies. It's not enough. It will never be enough. But it's something. And something is how you survive, how you keep going, how you build a life after loss that has meaning and value and impact. I miss Emma every day, every single day. The missing doesn't get smaller, I just get bigger around it. I build a life large enough to contain both the grief and the joy, the loss and the purpose, the pain and the progress. Emma would be 19 now, probably in college, probably studying psychology or social work, given her passion for helping people, probably dating someone, making friends, living the full, rich life she deserved. I'll never know what she would have become. That's been stolen from me, from the world, from Emma herself. But I know what she has become through her death. A symbol, an inspiration, a warning, a catalyst for change. Emma Rose Mitchell, who loved purple and poetry, who wanted to help people, who was brave enough to choose truth over comfort, even when it cost her everything. My daughter, my only child, my greatest loss, and my deepest purpose. This is her story, and mine, and Rachel's, though she doesn't deserve to be part of it anymore. But mostly, it's a story for other parents, other families, other children who might be facing similar situations. A story that says, speak up, tell the truth. Don't let anyone make you carry secrets that poison your most important relationships. And if someone betrays your child the way my sister betrayed Emma, choose your child. Always choose your child. Even if it costs you family, even if it costs you peace, even if it costs you everything, choose your child. I didn't get that choice. Emma died before I knew there was a choice to make. But you might. You might get the chance I didn't get. The chance to stand up for your child, to protect them from manipulation, to prioritize their well-being over family harmony. Take it. Don't hesitate. Don't second-guess yourself. Just choose them because they're worth it, because they deserve parents who fight for them, because childhood should be safe and family should be protective, and secrets should never be a burden children carry alone. That's Emma's legacy. That's the truth her journal revealed. That's the message I'm spending the rest of my life spreading.
And 3 years later, sitting in the afternoon sunlight in the room that was hers and is now mine, I can say, Emma, I'm sorry I didn't protect you from Rachel, but I'm protecting others in your name. I'm making sure your story saves the children I couldn't save you. I hope that's enough. I hope you can see it somehow. I hope you know that your courage, choosing to tell me, choosing truth over lies, choosing me in the end, I hope you know it mattered. It still matters. It will always matter. Your voice is still here, baby girl, still speaking, still saving lives, and I'll make sure it never goes silent. I promise.